Michael Sabourin. I'm speaking to you in front of the Capitol here in Montpelier on a lovely October day during the election season. I'm coming in front of the Capitol because I don't want folks to think that just because I'm not an incumbent, that doesn't mean I'm new to the place. Been following legislative issues here for probably a good decade, mostly primarily on mental health issue. I know folks here, I know legislators, I know folks in administration, I know folks that are, heads of committees, I know folks in different aspects of the government, I know agency heads, I know, folks in Department of Forestry and Fish and Wildlife, whatnot. I've been the president of Vermont Entomological Society for quite a while, so I know, folks throughout the state in various capacities. Public service, most of my lifetime has been public service, whether it's been, being a letter carrier, which I very much think is public service, to, being a postmaster, which is a whole lot of public service, and then, the last 6 years or so, I have worked as a psychiatric resident representative for the Vermont Psychiatric Survivors and Department of Mental Health, and that has me going into different facilities and various homes in the state, to see how folks are doing and if there's anything that I can help them with as far as needs and issues and whatnot. And because part of why I'm running is because of this past legislative season and the passing of Act S-287, which became Act 192, and it's they call it a judicial process law, but it was really another involuntary medication law where they shortened things and sort of like made a class out of certain people and those kind of things. And as part of that process, legislation passes for various reasons, good and bad and those kind of things, but it's part of the process that, I was involved in. The main impetus or reason for the legislation passing was because something that the governor wanted. I myself don't personally care what the governor wants outside of it being good for what I would call my constituents. And in this bill, I would certainly like to give the incumbent the benefit of the doubt that, she was somewhat persuaded in voting for this legislation because it was something the governor wanted, but it wouldn't be how I would work. I kind of place myself in the political spectrum in the middle, meaning that, I'm somewhat of a conservative liberal or a liberal conservative. I think I have different fiscal views than most liberals do, that's for sure. One reason why I'm running as an independent is because, the parties are real entities and they have their own agendas. And their agendas aren't necessarily for your benefit, but for some, goal that they may have to pursue, regardless of how it affects its constituents, their constituents. Well, I think the mental health work is very important in the sense that you learn how to relate to people. Not only do you learn how to relate to people, but you learn how to get things done, who to talk to, how to talk to people, where to go talk to people, And I think it also you develop an understanding for various ideas, without being judgmental, and even sometimes an appreciation or compassion for different viewpoints. You might have your own viewpoints, but in my work, I'm not an advocate for myself, I'm an advocate for other people, so I have to set myself aside, and I think that would pretty much do the same thing if I was a legislator. It's like, I'm not here for myself, I'm here for them or for you, and to do what can be done to, make things better for folks. So like my opponent, I'm in favor of universal health care in single payer, but I don't feel they have to be synonymized with one. I don't think if you don't get one, you have to lose the other kind of thing. And also, I think I'm more open to various ways of paying for universal health care, like not just depending on progressive income tax, which probably doesn't exist now or in the future. We don't have one now. I don't see where we're going to have one. The political will is not there. But there's, they talk about having a pool of money, so my idea is literally to create a pool of money from various sources. You could still have, some kind of income tax. We could keep the premiums. We could have a sales tax dedicated to medical issues. We could even divert, current taxes like the cigarette tax. I know it hasn't been said much during this election cycle, but I tend to be supportive of making marijuana legal because as a state we can't afford not to. One, I think it's very wrong to be incarcerating people for marijuana-related issues, and B, I think there's quite a bit of money there to be had as a state. I'm not for increasing the property tax, those type of things. I think that we need to create new income into the state. I think that we need to bring back the capital gains tax that was dropped during the Douglas administration. I think we need to bring in money through marijuana legislation. I think we need to look at all avenues of bringing in money. I don't think it can be you and I that are continue to pay what's happening in this state. I think we need to make Vermont healthcare as affordable as possible. I mean, even now under the current system with the dropping of VHAP and Catamount, we hear of premiums being too high and folks not being able to bring their kids to doctors and stuff like that because they can't afford it. I think as a society we really all need to buy into this universal healthcare and to all have a similar experience when we seek mental health care. I think we should do everything mental health and physical health care. We should do everything possible to make it affordable for all the folks in this state. I don't think we should be concentrating on carve-outs, whether it be Medicare or Medicaid, or I think universal health care is we're going to consider it in the literal sense. I think we should maybe think what that means before we start doing the carve-outs. One thing that separates me from my opponent is I am not supportive of the Vermont gas line in Champlain Valley. I think as a state we have made the decision to not support gas fracking, and whether it's in-state or out-of-state, I think that I think as a people we know that it causes harm to people. I don't think that we should be supporting it. Not only that, but I think we should be taking opportunities. I mean, we talk about in such and such a year, being 90% alternative fuels and stuff like that, and then we have something handed to us on the plate as far as getting us in that direction, and we just totally, bypass or ignore that opportunity. I think the current administration has been very tied to special interest groups that tend to support those in power, and I mean, the gas pipeline people might be one of those groups. Another one of those groups is the Vermont Hospital Association. I mean, they were a big thing behind the S-287, Act 192 passing, and that's also one reason why I'm not so sure of universal health care really, or single payer really happening, because the people that are supposed to benefit are you and I. The people that will likely benefit are the hospitals and the insurance companies. Even when we have these things called universal health care and single payer insurance, will probably be the least persons out of and when these things come forward. Well, if I become a representative, for one thing, I'm not there to do what the governor wants. I'm not part of the administration. I'm not part of the Democratic Party. I'm not even part of the minority Republican Party. I mean, certainly I know how to work with people to, maybe cut deals and stuff like that. But the governor says, he wants something, I'm going to say so what until, I think it, meets the needs of my constituents. Some of the things I support are, continue to support public funding for weatherization. I support a person's right to consume raw milk. I support the state divesting from fossil fuels. I think that we should expand the whistleblower protection law to cover people that are temporary or part-time employees so that they can feel safe to report things without losing their work or a source of income. Cap on the statewide education property tax, because I think the taxpayers, can't afford it. Like I said, we just need to look for new revenue systems. I very much support, public transportation and light rail, and doing everything we can as a state to, on a regular basis, just keep on, incrementally increasing our devotion to those things. I mean, even it means, diverting of funds from other transportation projects. I think that, we're going to divest from fossil fuels. We have to make things that, go in that direction, priorities, versus continuing to act like we have on a regular basis and think somehow that just at the end of the road we're going to be divested from fossil fuels. I also support expanding sick leave and annual leave benefits. And on a national level, I oppose a national ID system. I think over here across the street we're kind of getting towards that direction with needing a passport and a social security card and a birth certificate just to renew our licenses, which, I guess it's a federal thing, but it's can be very onerous for folks and very expensive too. And, low-income people and people in, coming out of hospitals without IDs and all those kind of things, it's quite an issue for them to get a personal ID, which is, pretty important to get housing and whatnot. But on the topic of housing, I think certainly the state needs to have more housing, more public housing, and probably needs to invest more in public housing, needs more vouchers for, getting people off the streets, and also even on a local level. I know this isn't very popular, but, Montpelier needs a homeless shelter, and even Washington County, District 6 needs a homeless shelter. I mean, I'd certainly be supportive of somebody getting something, a homeless shelter going in my district. That would be very important, I think.